Hello, welcome to the Ultimate Sports Show presents Around the NBA. Guys, we're back. We're here. We're present. It's another new year for us. We are back. We are ready to go. It's been a long time. It's been as they say, it's a hot minute, right? It's been a hot minute. Um, but we are back. That's the most important thing. Erod, I mean, we're getting the comments already back in here. I mean, like, you can't ask for us. Erod, one of our good friends on the show. Guys, it's so great to be back. First of all, how are you guys? Like, how are you guys been doing? And we back, baby.
We back. It's been way too long, guys. I know you've all missed us. I know Erod's missed us. I know our friend Chris has missed us. I know all our fans have missed us. Matthew's missed us. Even my fam's missed us. Medina's fam's missed us. Aaron's fam's missed us. It's been way too long. And we're finally ready to talk hoops with you guys. And let's run it.
I'm so stoked to be back with my ultimate sports crew, Aaron and Manny. It's been way too long. I'm just so happy right now because I'm back with my two favorite people, my family, my Laker fam on Twitter, talking about what I love the most, basketball. And I'm just so grateful to be here right now with two best guys ever, okay? And we're going to rock the show, and we have more to come soon, so y'all stay on it because we're back, baby, and we're not leaving this time.
Facts.
We're not going anywhere. Yes, we have a lot. We have a lot of stuff coming out. A lot of great content. A lot of future plans that you guys will find out about sooner or later. But everything, not just obviously, not just the big picture basketball, but obviously we're gonna have more things coming our way as well. Baseball, hockey, a bunch of things. Potentially even soccer. Who you never know. Maybe if I get Manny on the board, I'm sure somewhere along the lines we'll get in there some soccer sometimes. But we have a lot of great things coming our way. We're on a great path to bring you guys as much content as possible. But obviously, let's get into it. Like, well, it's been a while. Let's go through basketball here. There's not many games left, obviously. We are going to be with you guys the rest of the way. We're not going anywhere at all. We will have coverage through the whole NBA playoffs, play-in tournaments, everything that goes on. We will be there. We will be covering the games. We'll be inviting people in to join us, a guest star in our show, get their thoughts, get their opinions as well in a later time. Let's get into it, guys. I mean, look, the West and the Eastern Conference this year. What's your guys' take on it? Like the standings, where teams are, just how everything's been this year. And obviously we're gonna get into the injuries later on. But what's your guys' overall thought on both sides, West and the East?
Personally, in my opinion, super competitive. I find this season, there's like so much parity. Let me start with the West for a second, you guys. So, like, if we're going to go from, like, the 5th seed all the way to the 11th seed, it's literally, like, 4 games separating all these teams. You have the Clippers at 11.5, Golden State at 11.5, Lakers at 12.5, New Orleans at 12.5, Minnesota at 13.5, OKC at 14.5, Dallas at 15.5. It's so competitive. Like, this has to be the first season out of my 17 years watching basketball that I have no idea who's gonna get the play-in spots. It's crazy. Like, you literally even the let's first talk about the Dallas Mavericks actually before I get into like the Lakers, of course. They get Kyrie Irving in at the trade deadline. Obviously, hats off to them because Mark Cuban has always been a really great owner. He basically ended up finding Dirk Nowitzki out of the rough like years ago and won them a championship. And now they have like a star-studded guy in Luka Doncic, who's probably like a top 5 player in the NBA right now. And now they get Kyrie Irving, but wait a second, you guys. There's actually a lot of issues going on, and they're actually 1-7 in their last 8 games. Had it not been that buzzer beater shot that Maxi Kleber hit on the Lakers, they would have been 0-8 in their last 8 games. Things are not looking bright for them. From what I'm hearing and from what I'm seeing, because obviously I watch the NBA as a whole, Jason Kidd, in my opinion, is not a good fit for the Mavericks. He's literally he just can't coach them. He takes players out too early, and he just puts out like these weird lineups. The problem is also, because it's nothing on Kyrie Irving. I know what I say on Twitter when I say my stuff about Kyrie Irving, like it's not as a basketball player. The problem, actually, in my opinion, the main problem with the Mavericks, they're too ball dominant. Also, another thing, management also is another thing, because they let go of Jalen Brunson, and he was basically running the point for them. And I'm actually going to touch on him later because he has actually been dealing with some injuries on the New York Knicks. Also, let's go with OKC Thunder as well, that have had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander missing a bit of time. And honestly, in my opinion, we actually thought, I don't know about you guys, but I actually thought that they were going to be one of the worst teams in basketball this season. They've exceeded expectations. They're actually the 10th seed right now. So that means if the season ended today, they'd be in the play-in tournament. But there's actually one guy I actually want to talk about on the OKC Thunder, and that's Josh Giddey. In my opinion, has to be one of the most underrated players in the NBA. This guy literally came from Australia, and he's actually been averaging like 18 and 8 per game. He's been super underrated. Also, New Orleans Pelicans, prayers up to Zion, honestly, you guys. Because Zion Williamson, this guy cannot stay healthy. But Brandon Ingram and company, CJ McCollum, Jonas Valanciunas, like he has those guys literally like fighting in the play-in spot, and they're literally the 8th seed, and they're tied with the Lakers right now for the 7th seed. And of course, obviously I gotta talk about the Lakers, of course, because we're all Laker fans. Two out of the 3 people here live in LA. I actually don't, sadly. But anyways, they made some trades at the deadline, and that really saved our season. Remember, you guys, we were actually 0-5 to start the season, then 2-10, then we were 13 and 20 on Christmas, and we were the 13th seed, and a lot of fan bases were actually clowning us, and also the media was clowning us.
Yep.
And I obviously on Twitter, a lot of people were going at Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss, calling for their job and everything. But Rob Pelinka actually shocked us at the deadline, and he ended up getting rid of Russell Westbrook. He got rid of Juan Toscano Anderson. He got rid of Thomas Bryant, who requested a trade just out of nowhere. I don't know if all of you know about Thomas Bryant, that he just requested a trade out of nowhere. He ended up requesting a trade out of nowhere, and he ended up getting us absolutely fleecing the Utah Jazz and Minnesota Timberwolves, and got us a familiar face who we're all very, very familiar with in D'Angelo Russell, who actually got drafted here in 2015. And he has been a great fit, much better fit than Russell Westbrook. Nothing against Russell Westbrook, but the thing is, D'Angelo Russell has been a much better fit. But the most underrated fit out of all of those moves we made is Jared Vanderbilt, a.k.a. Vando. This guy is literally 23 years old, going to be a part of the future plans, by the way, and has been a stud on defense. So much of a stud on defense, and Darvin Ham actually put him in the starting 5. So I'm very happy with the moves that the Lakers made. And also, another thing we got to talk about before I get into the other LA team is the Golden State Warriors. Surprisingly, you guys, I know they've also had their share of injuries. There's nothing excuse to how bad they've been on the road. They just cannot win road games, and I think that's one of the reasons why they're like 9-26 on the road. They just go on the road and they just flat out fall apart. They lose all momentum, and the thing is, they always rely on Steph Curry and Klay Thompson to just bail them out. Then the other team that's fighting in the play-in, who actually was 4th, now they're 5th, are the LA Clippers. I know Kawhi Leonard has had his share of injuries, Paul George has had their share of injuries, but they have a lot of depth, the Clippers. There's no excuse for them to be actually the going down in the 5th seed and literally being neck and neck with the Warriors, the Lakers, and the New Orleans Pelicans. I always thought the Clippers were going to be like a top 3 seed this year. As much as we're not too fond of them really in Lakerland. I'm not saying us, I'm saying in Lakerland. And honestly, like to get to the other top three teams, first of all, shout out to the Sacramento Kings. Congrats to the Sacramento Kings on making the playoffs for the first time in 17 years. Honestly, that team has been a laughingstock for so long, and the Iron Fox is having them play like a top team in the NBA. Personally, I think they're beatable in the playoffs, but I think they exceeded a lot of expectations. Now let's go to the East, guys. Obviously, like there's nothing to talk about really with the Pistons and the Hornets. Those guys, they're tanking. They're pretty much done with it. I want to talk about actually a team that actually underachieved, in my opinion. I thought they were going to be a top 5 seed in the East, but they really underachieved. They actually have a lot of depth. The Chicago Bulls. Honestly, Nikola Vucevic has been one of the most underrated players in the NBA, and he's just not playing like himself, and the team is not playing like themselves. Zach LaVine has been good. DeMar DeRozan has been good. But the thing is, even their share of injuries, Kobe White hasn't been healthy either. And it's crazy, in my opinion. Also, the Miami Heat as well have been really inconsistent as well. They've been 41-37, a team that's made the NBA Finals the conference finals last year. They got Kyle Lowry, they have Jimmy Butler, they have Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and they've also underachieved as well. But it's been very competitive, the West and the East. But another team I got to talk about in the East that's really been raising eyebrows, the Brooklyn Nets. I don't know what has been going on with the Brooklyn Nets. KD ended up requesting a trade. Kyrie Irving requested a trade. And I was just like, wow, what on earth is going on with them? And they end up trading everybody after literally having that super team in KD, Kyrie, and Harden a couple of years ago. But I got to give them a bit of credit for one reason alone. Mikal Bridges is actually playing really good basketball. And he actually has them neck and neck in the play-in near the 6th seed.
Oh, thank you for that, Manny. You pretty much covered most of it.
Manny the statistician. What can we say, you know?
But we love that, Manny. We love that you're always full of the info. But I mean, you pretty much covered everything, so I'll just kind of give you guys my opinion. Forgive me, I'm a little bit rusty when it comes to the basketball season this year, but I'm going to do my best to speak on it a little bit and just kind of give you guys my take on how I see everything going. I'll start off with the Eastern Conference. Not too surprised by who I see in the first 2 seeds, Milwaukee and Boston. Kind of see that every year going. I am happy to see Cleveland in there. I'm happy to see the Knicks in there. It's going to make an interesting playoff round this year, having them. And I'm surprised to even see Brooklyn in there just because of what Manny said. All the whole drama between KD and Kyrie leaving Brooklyn. I didn't really think they'd really have a chance to still make it to the playoffs this year. But, I mean, they have a solid team. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. As for the Western Conference final, I mean, not too surprised with who's going to be making it to the playoffs. Crossing my fingers, the Lakers end up making it too. But other than that, I am surprised that the Kings are on there. I mean, I'm happy for them because it's been correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I feel like since Kobe era, we haven't seen the Kings make it to the playoffs.
The last time the Kings made it to the playoffs was 2006.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. I was gonna say like Kobe Shaq era, so it was almost close.
A little few
almost
years
close. But yeah, good for them. Like I don't know. I feel like we see the same teams every year, so it's nice to see something new in there, something interesting. And if the Lakers do end up making it to the 6th seed, it's going to be an interesting first round. Lakers versus Kings kind of takes us back to the old days, and it's going to be a good little show off. Other than that, yeah, I don't really know what much to cover since Manny kind of got most of it down. But I mean, Aaron, if you have anything else you'd like to ask, I'd love to speak on that.
I will mention a minute on the standings. Obviously, I think that a lot of, just to keep it simple, I think between both sides, obviously, except for probably the first 2 seeds, I thought definitely this year was different than we've seen in the last few years of the NBA, and probably for the last, I would say, the last decade. Where typically you'd see the teams like you wouldn't see you wouldn't see, like, for instance, right now you wouldn't see the West where there's 4 or 5 teams all almost with the same record and the same win, almost the same win loss differential by 1 game. Um, that's something we've really never seen before. Um, I think number one, it's different. It also kind of brings us into what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the play-in tournament in just a few minutes. Um, but honestly, I think it's shocking. It was weird at first, but I've accepted this year that, just everyone's battling. It's a battle, and injuries have been injuries. We're going to get into as well that, some of these records you would think, wow, like you would think, okay, someone's going to be 10 games, at least 10 games over 500. Here we are, that there's people that are in the playoffs that are only 4 games over 500, 3 games over 500, just because of how the league is balanced out this year. That's my take on it, really. I think it's just different. It's a different balance this year. And honestly, it's going to be very exciting the last few games of the year. That's kind of what I'm really looking forward to. Let's turn our attention though. We have to mention the Lakers. I mean, look, we got to mention. I know Manny already kind of touched on it. The Lakers making their big move they did this year. They obviously traded away a chunk of money, being Russell Westbrook's contract, trading away Thomas Bryant. The moves that they made. Were you guys originally surprised by it? Given the way the Lakers obviously were this year, and also I guess the bigger question we kind of talked about early before we got on, is if we get in the playoff, if the Lakers get in the playoffs, is there a real chance that we see a coach of the year or comeback team of the year for the Lakers? Because, I mean, look at everything they've gone through. I mean, they've gone through a lot this year with the roster, with the balance, where they've been right now. What's your guys' really take on it? I mean, Manny, I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but if you got any more, Medina, like, what do you guys really think about it? Because I think it's a real big turnaround. I mean, I know Erod was talking about it as well. Starting 2-10 is right. I mean, look, we were the 13th seed. It's a lot. I mean, it's a real big change. I think it's, one of those things that not many teams are going to come back through. So what do you guys think?
Well, personally, in my opinion, it's crazy. The fact that we started off 2-10 and now we're like 40-38. Like, if there was a comeback team of the year, literally, I would give it to the Lakers. Not only because we're fans of the Lakers, but also because there was just so much drama in the offseason. Are we going to keep Westbrook? Or are we going to trade him? We ended up trading him, but like either way, like it's insane. We ended up trading him, and now our season literally turned around. And now Darvin Ham is actually putting up some pretty good rotations as well. Because at the start of the season, he actually had like 3-guard lineups, and we were all raising eyebrows. Like, you can't have 3 guards on the same lineup. But then, like, he ends up having D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves starting next to each other. And I was like, finally. It's amazing, honestly, in my opinion. I'm actually very happy to see that we actually transformed in that. But I still wouldn't give Darvin Ham Coach of the Year, though. That vote has to go to, in my opinion, Taylor Jenkins of the Memphis Grizzlies. Just because there has been so much drama with John Morant, because he's had a bit of his antics off the court, like posing a gun on Instagram. But honestly, to have a young team next on top of the Western Conference is absolutely outstanding, in my opinion. So if I'm going to go Coach of the Year, Taylor Jenkins. Sorry, Darvin Ham.
Hey, it was worth a shot.
Aaron, you asked, are we surprised by the trade? I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner, to be honest with you. No hate towards Westbrook. love the dude, but he was just
So,
not a
yes.
great. He was not it. He was not a great fit for a team. And I said this for so long now, and so many Laker fans did. Again, no hate towards him, but he just didn't really benefit our team. And I feel like we were slacking off big time because of him. And I feel like now the roster that we have, it just kind of fits. Like it shows what this team is capable of. And also, like AD has been beasting it every game lately, and I am just so proud of him too for the way he's playing and carrying the Lakers right now because he really stepped it up when he needed to. To come back from the 13th seed to being seventh and possibly by the end of the week number 6, or correct me if I'm wrong, 5 if we play things right. It's just great to see how far the Lakers have come back, and the trade, everything just kind of worked out in our favor, and I'm happy how it played out. As for coach of the year, just like Manny said, I wouldn't give it to Darvin Ham just because I still find his rotations and plays a little questionable. But if we do end up winning the championship, I will hand it off to him. That's not an easy thing to do as coach, from coming back from the bottom to making it all the way to the top. So we do have to give him some sort of credit, and hopefully he can redeem himself and learn from the mistakes that he's made this year if he's still our coach next year. But I'm happy with the way things are playing out. I'm happy with the trades that we've made. I feel like everything's just been kind of working out in our favor as being Laker fans. And that's my take on it.
Nice. And I think there's more to come. I think that team's really showed. I think I just looked it up right now. They have to win potentially if they win the last 5 games in a row. They have a potential if the seeding right. One of the other writers were just talking about it recently. They said they have a potential to actually drop to 4th. Get potentially. I mean, that's all obviously up in the air. That's everybody you need to have lose, and that's it's a 50-50 shot. That's idea. I mean, that could happen. Not saying it's not possible, but not saying it's going to happen, but there is a chance. So they could potentially, if all the pieces fell in the right spot for them, they could actually be in the 4th seed. Also, that Lakers-Clippers game on Wednesday could be very huge for seeding as well. Between them two, who knows? I mean, I know people have been talking about it. Also, shout out to Matthew, who's in here as well. Great to see. Great. I hope you're enjoying your trip, and great for you to come by. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the love. But I think what we've been, every Lakers fans always said is it'd be nice for the Lakers and the Clippers to get a chance to play each other in the playoffs. And that's with Paul George, Kawhi. That's their whole team versus our whole team. Like everybody, you got everybody we have. And I know the Lakers are still missing some pieces, Mo Bamba, to at least have AD have a little bit more help at the 5. But let's keep going here. So we have another big thing that happened, obviously, for the NBA as well. It's a CBA, collective bargaining agreement. Obviously, the big news is being able to add a 3rd max contract player extension or signing a max contract player. Manny, I know you have some takes on this. Let's hear it, man. What do you got? I know it's a big deal. I mean, it's a good thing, I think, and bad thing, but how does it play out? What's your opinion?
Well, it's a good thing because obviously there's going to be no lockout for a good 4 years because from what I've seen, the CBA has been extended to 2027. So we're not going to have any lockout till 2027, which is good. That's also a good thing, but also another thing is that I don't like that the cap got lifted, which is not good because we all remember what happened to the Golden State Warriors. They ended up giving Kevin Durant on that cap spike, and they ended up signing DeMarcus Cousins on that minimum. So I don't want to see a super team era back. That's going to kind of bother me because I love the way the NBA is going on right now. I love how competitive it is. It's been amazing how competitive it is. I love how the league is looking so far. I don't want to go back to where it was in a few years ago. It's not going to look that good, in my opinion.
Medina, you got some thoughts on the CBA?
To be honest, I just kind of learned about it recently, so I'm still trying to familiarize myself with what's going on. But from what I've been reading about it and what Manny just mentioned, that's how I feel about it right now.
It's definitely, I think it's definitely some people are catching their eye on it. I think obviously more or less, you're gonna hear a lot more about it come the off season, come the free agency, before things really get serious. I think we're gonna find out a lot more news about it, and how much more it keeps impacting the league. But you know what? I'm glad, obviously proud of the league and the Players Association for getting a new bargaining agreement done and completed. As we've seen with baseball, it's not fun to deal with an NBA lockout or a Major League Baseball lockout. So those definitely play a toll on the seasons and really change things up. Let's keep going. We got the biggest thing. I think one of the biggest things in this season is injuries. I mean, I don't even know where to start. I mean, obviously, the season ending. There's been some season ending injuries. I want to say probably. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and also everybody in the chat too. I want to say everybody, at least on every team, has gotten injured. At least a few had at least a few injuries on their squad. I don't think there's anybody in the whole league that's literally had every one of their guys play with no problems, no tweaked ankles. I think you've really seen a lot of people sprain their ankle this year, like a lot of ankle issues, foot issues. LeBron's been hurt a few times. Anthony Davis been hurt a few times, been banged up a few times. D'Angelo Russell. I think Giannis got banged up a little bit too. It just the injuries. Like, do you guys think it's just fluke injuries this year? Do you think it's just a weird year for the NBA with injuries and how the standings played out? Or do you think it's just something more or less that they need to really look at and limit some of the minutes, limit some of the injuries that have been caused by it? It could be back-to-back. I mean, obviously, we've trimmed down on back-to-back significantly in the last 8 years or so. The back-to-backs have gotten dropped down now for players' health. But do you guys think that, what's the deal with the injuries this year?
It's been insane, the injuries. Like, I actually have a link on my phone, and I've looked at how many injuries there are in the league, and it's nuts. Let's start off with the Washington Wizards. Bradley Beal, Kristaps Porzingis, Kyle Kuzma, and Monte Morris. That's 4 key players on the Washington Wizards that are completely out injured. Then the Charlotte Hornets. Gordon Hayward, Kelly Oubre, Terry Rozier out. Obviously, LaMelo Ball's out for the season. We all know that. Cody Martin and LaMelo Ball, like I said. Atlanta Hawks, DeAndre Hunter, one of their best wings, is out. Orlando Magic, Jonathan Isaac is out. New York Knicks, Julius Randle, DeQuan Jeffers is not really like a no name, but they've had like 3 guys that are injured as well. Brooklyn Nets, they shut down Ben Simmons the whole season. The Celtics have Robert Williams, who's actually one of the best defenders in the league. He's been out. The Toronto Raptors have Otto Porter Jr. They're fighting for a play-in spot, and he's one of their best wings. He's out as well. Lonzo Ball's out for the year, and Lonzo Ball's out for the year as well for the Chicago Bulls. They have no point guard. They have to use Kobe White, who's their bench piece, to start. Indiana Pacers have Miles Turner, who's been dealing with injuries, and he's like their best center on the team. Also, the Milwaukee Bucks. You ever heard of a guy named Chris Middleton? He's also been injured, and he's their second best player. Obviously, first of all, shout out to the Milwaukee Bucks. They have the best record in the NBA, and Chris Middleton hasn't even played, like, barely at all this season. It's basically been Giannis and Drew Holiday that's been playing the whole season. It's insane. Naz Reid's been out for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's an impending free agent. I mean, I wouldn't mind if the Lakers got him. That would be a nice signing if we got him. But honestly, like, Naz Reid has been out, and he's like one of the best young power forwards in the game. Utah Jazz also are competing for a play-in spot. They're kind of out there. And I found out that Walker Kessler, their best young center has been shut down the season. That's insane. Like, I could just be rambling on and on and on about these injuries on all these teams. It's crazy. Personally, in my opinion, I like what you said, Aaron, about the back-to-backs. In my opinion, they should remove the back-to-backs completely. Like, it's completely stupid that the NBA keeps having back-to-backs. Have one game one night, and then 2 to 3 other nights have the other game. Back-to-backs, it's just making the players tired and they're aggravating injuries. Let's say like on like a random December, January, February, when there's no clinching scenarios, you're gonna make the star players play back-to-back in meaningless regular season games. Adam Silver, you're probably not watching this, but you have to really like do something about that, because that is serious. Like, also speaking about the Lakers, LeBron and AD have been injured as well this season on and off. Like, it's been crazy. Like, stop with the back-to-backs. I heard rumors saying that they wanna stop the 82 game season and go to like 70 games. 82 game season is fine. Just remove the back-to-backs. And that way, star players will stop getting hurt. Because obviously I didn't touch also about the New Orleans Pelicans, Zion Williamson. He's been injured on and off, and that's because of the back-to-backs. Get rid of that stuff, and I feel like the league would be a lot better with that situation.
I completely agree with everything Manny just said, but I also have a thought on this, and I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Yeah, go
But
ahead.
I feel like ever since we've come back from the pandemic, I've been seeing so many players getting injured, so many players getting more tired out. And we remember after COVID, like we just kept having these back-to-back games. It was a short season. Our players got injured and it was just rough. And I feel like every year it's getting progressively worse, especially this year with all the amount of injuries we've had. I feel like since we've come back from the pandemic, it's just been more like that. And our teams are just getting more competitive too with their playing. I wouldn't shorten the season. I would not like to see our players' time shortened either, because we do need specific players for a certain amount of time, or else, like we kind of see it with the Lakers. The moment you sit down Bron and AD, like we kind of lose that lead that we have, and I don't want to see that. So I kind of agree with what Manny's saying. Stop the back-to-back games, and I think you would see a major difference in how these players are kind of out there and like their health issues and all that. Like it would just get better in my opinion, but that's just my take on it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's all great takes.
Mhm.
I think just in total, like it's just tough. Like, you really see some good guys. Obviously you mentioned Zoe. You mentioned the star players. You never like to see anybody get hurt. Like, I mean, you could sit there as a fan and say, man, like I can't stand LeBron. I can't stand watching Davis ball out. But I mean, no matter what, like, NBA fans know, like, look, you could hate them on the court all you want, but you want to see them out there. You want to see them. You want to see them out there. You want to see them competing. And if you're not 100%, like, I mean, look, a lot of scenarios that people have been saying is, look, the NBA right now is not like it was 20 years ago. Like, where 20 years ago, you'd see, the Kobe's, the Shaqs, the Dirks, you'd see the Kevin Garnett's, you'd see the Chris Bosh's back then. You'd see a lot of those guys, Jason Kidd, Steve Nash. You'd see all these guys sit there and they'd seriously just ball out. Even if a knee was bothering them, if something was bothering them, they'd sit there and say, you know what? If I can move, I could walk and I could run and I can manage the injury, and it's not something that's going to literally keep me out or keep me from being able to walk, then I won't play. I think the way the league's looked at things this year is they've said, look, people, a lot of people have been this year saying in the last, probably, you're right, probably since COVID, even probably a little bit before, people have been saying, like, the league feels like it's getting softer about the injuries. Like, softer about, like, okay, if a guy bruises his finger, guy sprained his finger, or, a foot injury, a sore foot, pull him out. I think that it gets to a point where you need to say, look, you have the athletic trainers, that are in charge of you. You're supposed to help with your injuries. They're supposed to help you progress to make yourself stronger, yourself a better player. You to be able to go out there and say, great, I'm going to sit here and give everything I have. And if I can walk, I can go. And I think a lot of that this year with basketball and just the way things have been is it's very frustrating. I think a lot of the times where, fans sat there and you know what, it's like what it brings me to right before we wrap this section up, it brings me to something that I remember the late great Kobe Bryant once said. He said, look, if I could be out there because fans, that one group of family or the guy the dad that's taking his 2 kids to go see his favorite basketball player supposed to suit up and they don't suit up, it's a heartbreaker because you're sitting there, you want to see the best of the best. You want to see the people go out there and give it their all. Kobe Bryant specifically said, if he missed a game, he felt like he wasn't giving back to his fans and being able to let people get to see him because you know what? It could be once in a lifetime that you got to see him on the court. And he wanted to make sure everybody got to see him. So I think a lot of that this year is just really shown like where the league is at as a whole with injuries and how they've been managing it. And you know what? We can only hope it gets better from here. So with that said, obviously, let's talk about the play-in tournament. It's been a big NBA moneymaker. I feel like NBA moneymaker, very competitive. Obviously, between the play-in tournament, what do you guys really think of it now? Because this is the third year we've had it? Third year we've had it. What do you guys honestly think of the play-in tournament? How it's been? And do we like it? Do we not like it? Are we finding like some kind of middle ground to it? What's your guys' take on it?
My personal opinion about the play-in tournament, I don't really like it because I'm very old school. I like 1 to 8, 2 to 7, 3 to 6, 4 to 5. But I didn't like it in the beginning. But now it's kind of growing on me just because I like seeing those like lower tier teams try to fight their way to make it in those last playoffs spots. Because if you think about it, I'm going to go back to 2021 where the play-in started. The Golden State Warriors were actually, I think, the 8th seed, and they didn't end up making it at all. And the Memphis Grizzlies, as a 9th seed, ended up stealing that game from them. It actually looked pretty cool seeing that. But at the same time, I kind of like the traditional NBA playoffs where it's like 1 to 8, 2 to 7, 3 to 7, 3 to 6, 4 to 5. But at the same time, I'm kind of cool with it now just because I like seeing those teams fight in it. But I'd rather see the old school thing. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I'd rather see it the old school way too. But I guess I'm going to be a little bit biased here. But when it's your team that's like this close to not making it to the playoffs, you kind of appreciate the play-in tournament. So right now, I can say that I have a love-hate relationship with it. And being where my favorite team is currently at, I love the play-in tournament. I'm glad we have it right now.
Now, do you guys think it now between you guys? Do you guys think this is the play? You think the play-in tournament's going to be here to stay? Do you think it's going to be around?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's the new thing that we do, and especially if it's the moneymaker for the NBA. Definitely keeping it around.
Yeah, and it's going to bring a lot of revenue to like the lower market teams that are trying to make the play-in tournament that don't really gain as much following as the teams like the Lakers, the Knicks, and the Warriors. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. All right. Well, there's one thing that I think everybody has been talking about this year, and I mentioned it earlier about how it's been a little bit of a softer version of the league this year, and just where the NBA is in its whole. That brings us to the refs officiating this year for the NBA. What do you guys what do you guys think about just the officiating this year? I feel like right now, like, Manny, you could shoot the ball, I could barely brush your hand, barely even touch your hand, and then someone's gonna call that a foul.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I just think it's, I think it's, there comes to a point where you need to say, great, you're going to sit there and say, I'm going to say, all right, you know what? I'm going to go give it all I have. I'm going to give it all to you on the defensive end. I'm going to literally have my hands up in the air, and I'm still going to get something. And it's like, what happened to that? You know, it's like, what happened to tough basketball? Like, what happened to just being able to say, great, I'm going to go attack the rim. I'm going to throw down a tomahawk slam on you right now if you don't get out of the way, you know? But, you know, what's just up with the officiating this year? I think this year is probably the worst officiating I've seen. Like, I have never seen so many blown calls. And I'm sure one of us can figure this out of how many calls they've already, how many officiating blown NBA calls there has been this year is ridiculous.
Abso-freaking-lutely. There's actually one game I want to touch on that, and I think you guys know the game I'm going to talk about.
I think so.
The Lakers-Celtics game at the end of January.
I knew it.
Honestly, I kind of feel biased because all of us, because we are Laker fans, but the thing is, LeBron got hit on the wrist the last second of that game. He could have had, even if he made one shot, the Lakers would have won. But they didn't call it. Honestly, I wanted to throw my TV out the window. I was so mad. And that's just like one example. There's like so many examples from so many games that I've watched this season. Like players get hit and no call. Like I've one thing I'm scared about as a Laker fan is that going to happen to us in the play-in or the playoffs? Because if we get rigged for a playoff game or a play-in game, that's going to really, really hurt us to the core. Because that would mean basically like an ESPN 30 for 30 saying like, you know, what if this happened? What if that happened? Like it would just be so much controversy. It's insane.
I don't like how the officiating has been going on for the last couple of years now. I feel like everything is just a foul. Like Aaron said, like it's just, when are you gonna let our guys just play tough basketball again? Mm-hmm. It kills the rhythm of the game and wastes so much time. Not to mention like the reviews they have to look at and like takes like 10 minutes out of the game. And it's just like, come on, just get on with it. Like we want to see what we want to see the game. We want to see what happens. Who cares if someone's hand was in someone's face for a second? That shouldn't be called as a foul. But then things you should call as a foul, like the LeBron layup that didn't get called, that is what's triggering, because it's like, why are you going to make a bad call like that and then give us a half-assed Twitter apology from the NBA refs saying, sorry that we made a bad call? It's like you'd think you'd learn by now. You think you know how to do better by now, but you're not. And I think a lot of these players are also getting babied by that too, because when something small happens to them, they just expect to get the foul now. Like that's just like the first initial reaction from some NBA players, like, where's my foul? Where's my foul? And it wasn't even a foul. And it's like, play some tough basketball. Like, you guys get paid so much money to play basketball, and not to just sit there and shoot free throws all day long throughout these games. So that's just my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's what can you say? You only hope that it gets better from here. That things actually get better, and obviously when it comes to playoff time, I mean, look, that we're gonna get right into it soon. You know, with the playoffs, but you can only hope. The league just looked at it. Adam Silver says, look, like, we can't be blowing these calls. Like, if we need to review something in the last few minutes of the game to determine if it's a foul or not, just review it. You know, you have this whole replay review. You have these whole officiating review. Use it. Like, don't sit here and say, oh, well, we can't use this, or we can't make a mistake, or we're going to make a mistake. We made a mistake and put it out all over everywhere. It says, you know, we missed the mistake at the end. It should have been a foul. No, I mean, sit there and say, pause. Game's not over yet. We're going to check and see if there's a foul and see how many minutes are left on the clock. And you know what? If there's a foul and it was 0.2 of a second on the game clock, you put 0.2 of a second on the game clock, and you have people shooting free throws. Even if it's on both sides, no matter if it's your team or if it's the opposing team, you got that foul, you were fouled, you should be shooting free throws. Like, doesn't matter the case. Obviously, if it wasn't contact, so on and so forth. Also, we do have to mention before we get into the final thoughts here and talk about the playoffs as well. Big shout outs to San Diego State Aztecs and the UConn. For your national championship going on today, right now. That's going on. That's just started. Big shout out to those teams. Obviously, we want the best of the best, and you're getting the best of the best tonight. Wishing those two teams the best of luck, and no matter who wins the men's championship.
Shout out to my family in Connecticut. Hopefully, UConn wins.
There you go. All right, so let's get into it. Obviously, with final thoughts. Where do you guys see everybody finishing? And it kind of sets us up for the potential playoffs. But where do you guys honestly see right now? If you looked at the standings, do you honestly see things being exactly the way it is today on the last game of the year? Do you honestly think it's going to be that way? Or do you think it's going to be a whole different story here?
Honestly, what I will have to say about the East, I think the East is going to stay the way it is because most of the East is already covered. It's already clinched. So I'm actually gonna go jump in for the West. Basically, the top 3 seeds are already covered. Denver, Memphis, Sacramento are all clinched. They're all literally gonna stay where they are. But then when you get to 5th to 10th, that's where it gets tricky, like I mentioned at the start of the show. I think the Clippers are gonna drop. They're gonna drop in the play-in, I feel like. They're gonna go 7th. The Lakers are going to end up 6. And I think, even though the Warriors have a bad road record, I feel like they're the ones that are going to get 5th. They're going to draw the Phoenix Suns in the first round. And we're going to end up at 6, and we're going to play Sacramento. And then I feel like also, even though Dallas has been not very good in their past few games, I still cannot count out Luka Doncic. I think Dallas is going to make the play-in, and OKC is going to drop out of there. I feel like the Mavericks are going to get the 10th seed. The Pelicans are going to stay where they are at 8, and then everything else is pretty much covered. I feel like in the play-in, I feel like the 2 teams that are going to make it out of the play-in, because I said it's going to be Clippers and Pelicans and basically the Timberwolves and the Mavericks. I'm going to take the Clippers and the Mavericks getting out of the play-in. I think the Clippers are going to face off against the Grizzlies, and the Mavericks are going to face off against the Denver Nuggets. That's my prediction for the play-in and playoff seedings. And the East is pretty much covered. I feel like Milwaukee is going to face off against Miami. Boston's going to face off against Atlanta. Philly's going to face off against Brooklyn. Cleveland's going to face off against New York. And that's just my personal opinion on how everybody's going to finish in the play-in and playoffs.
Yeah, and just to piggyback from Manny, same here. I feel like the Eastern Conference, I feel like that's all set in stone. I don't really think much is going to change to that. Western Conference, different story. My prediction, I feel like the Clippers are actually going to make the playoffs, and I feel like Golden State is going to fall off just because I see the Lakers, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Laker fan, but just based on the way they've been playing this last week, if they keep it up this week, I see them clinching that 6th seed, and I see Golden State dropping down into the play-in tournament. That's about it. I feel like Phoenix Clippers, they're a solid team too, as much as I hate to admit it, but I feel like we're going to face one of them during the playoffs too. And I feel like it's going to be the first round is going to definitely be, we're going to see a Lakers versus Kings playoff round very soon.
Wouldn't that be something?
That'd be exciting to watch. It's going to bring back a lot of good memories.
First time since 2002.
You know what, though? I don't know. I mean, you have to think about it this way, too. It could be, obviously, it could be Lakers Kings. Also, Lakers Clippers.
I actually want to see that. I know.
I really, look, Matthew, if you're in here watching, Lakers Clippers,
LA's about to be so hyped if that happens.
That whole city's going to be insane.
You know what's crazy though? Also, not just to mention, because we're also going to the playoffs, and why not? I have to give a shout out as well. obviously not basketball related, but shout out to the Los Angeles Kings for making the playoffs as well. They just clinched a playoff spot as well. So you get LA basketball in the playoffs, and you have not officially yet because Lakers and the Clippers haven't clinched anything yet, but for LA fans out here, it could be a very fun year for LA teams, for LA basketball teams. It's going to be a lot to look forward to. And guys, I mean, look, we're just getting started. I mean, look, we have there's so many more opportunities. We're going to be on. We will either be on tomorrow. We'll be on either tomorrow or Wednesday. But please, if you do not already do, follow our pages, follow our Instagram, follow our Facebook. Make sure you follow us. You will know when we go live. We are on Twitter as well, The Ultimate Sports. Make sure you follow our pages. Guys, I mean, what can I say? We're just getting things going here, and we got a whole lot more to start talking about. So for Aaron, for myself, Medina, and Manny, thanks for tuning in to The Ultimate Sports Show, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow.
Peace.